Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books. I am here to do my favorites, my favorite reads of 2021. Yes. So 2021 was a bit of a odd year for me. My reading was down a bit. I still read a lot, but it was down from what it had been in the previous 2 or 3 years. And I read a lot more nonfiction than I had before. I've always read a lot of nonfiction, but I read a lot more than usual. So yeah, just gonna dive right in. Before I do, I wanted to shout out a new channel that Patrice has introduced me to, and that is Lulu Bananas. She's just posted 2 videos of her favorite fiction and nonfiction of the year, and I encourage you to check her out and subscribe. She's very new to booktube, has just barely entered the double digits, so it would be nice for several of us to welcome her aboard. So diving right in, these are just books I've read, no particular year, including 2021. A lot of them, several are actually 2021, a few are 2020. And they're not ranked, but they are categorized. So the first category is nature writing. And spoiler alert for the video, but there's another category that's also nature writing, but of a particular vein. So anyway, there's a lot of nature here. Are you surprised? So 2 of these were my favorites from the Book Naturalist Book Club. Really loved reading all of those books last year. Very excited about this year. But the 2 favorites were quite literary, and all 3 of these books are very literary. I just find the union of nature and language just a gorgeous thing. So the first was our January read, World of Wonders, in praise of fireflies, whale sharks, and other astonishments, by Amy Nezukumatadel. So she just writes these short vignettes with lovely illustrations. They're 6-8 pages-ish each one. And Amy is actually I'm looking for the really cute picture. Amy herself is a poet, but she has always been enchanted by nature as a child, and growing up, and as an adult. I can't find the picture. Anyway, there it is. Sorry, isn't that cute? So this, and she grew up as a child of color, woman of color. So this not only is gorgeous language and nature that she has experienced herself, but she also brings her growing up and not quite fitting in all the time, and what that's like, to the table, and just the way she reflects back on her life, and also lifts up these adorable creatures, is just spellbinding to me. I love this so much. And then we have Diary of a Young Naturalist by Dara McAnally. This is a young man who is just, I'm amazed. So this is his diary over the course of a year. He is on the autism spectrum. So this again is, beautiful nature writing. He is so gifted and so observant of the natural world. He spends a lot of time out in nature because he finds solace there, and, time to gather his thoughts and regroup. And he, also in turn joins, you know, his reflections on nature with his reflections on his inner landscape, as does Amy. And it's just beautiful. Oh, I think that he wrote this and published it when he was like 16, 17. And it's just wow. Wow. And then the third one was not on our Book Naturalist list. It would have been a great candidate, but I think I read it for the Nonfiction BookTube Prize, and I was very disappointed that it didn't make it through to the final round. This is Fathoms, The World in the Whale by Rebecca Giggs. And again, like, her writing is so poetic, but very insightful. This one is like much more heavily researched, and just really well thought out in what she wanted to say. So this one marries the life of the whale with climate change and impacts there, and just what she says is really quite profound. Highly recommend that one as well. So then I have a couple books that are like feminist literature, somewhat. So Brazen, Rebel Ladies Who Rocked the World by Penelope Bagot. Britta sent me this for Christmas. It's a graphic novel, and it focuses on just different random ladies, most of them ones that you may not have heard about, probably not have heard about. Each little chapter is, you know, again, 6 or 8 pages, and then ends with these gorgeous illustrations between each one. And I just found both the art style of the illustrations and the graphic novel style illustrations to be just so charming, just so charming. I especially loved, a lot of them started out with the girls when they were babies or just little girls, and they were, oh, that one, I love this one. They were just adorable. This is not adorable, this is beautiful. That's actually the Mariposas, the, was it Dominican? The Mirabelles, yeah. And the other thing I love, besides the artistic style and, you know, lifting up these women, I loved the diversity in this book. She does a good job of just, you know, going around globally and, you know, representing such diverse women across time even. It's just fabulous. And then Looking for Miss America, A Pageant's 100-Year Quest to Define Womanhood by Margot Mifflin. I think this was also on the BookTube Prize long list, maybe the long list, like before the long list. And I saw it, I think I got it from Book Outlet randomly. But it was a lot more than I expected it to be. So, you know, it's the history of Miss America, but it also, like it says, defining womanhood, it shows like how narrowly that was defined initially, and how you know, these sorts of brazen women broke out of that mold. So I really enjoyed that as well. Okay, and then this is the other nature segment, and it's quite large. I was into medical nonfiction and microbiology this year. I can't imagine why. I mean, I've always had a bender toward that, but you know, this was the year. So, and these are all fabulous audiobooks. So, Bellevue by David Oshinsky, 3 Centuries of Medicine and Mayhem at America's Most Storied Hospital. Yeah, this is another random book outlet grab, and it was brilliant. It's centered in Bellevue in New York City, and just 3 centuries as it says, so 1800s, 1900s, and 2000s, and a little bit of the 1700s, I believe, at the very beginning. But just the evolution of medicine from, the physical quackery, for lack of a better word at the moment, to actually discovery of medicines that worked, and psychological medicine and how we treated patients at the time, and sociologically, who actually got treatment over the years. Just really, really a good book. I found that engrossing. And then I Contain Multitudes by Ed Young, The Microbes Within Us and a Grander View of Life. Oh, this book is so, so good. I learned so much, and it's so accessible with the writing and very engaging. It reminded me of, if you were a child of the 80s, Wild Kingdom. Do you remember that on Sunday nights? I think it was. This, like, a lot of the writing in here was like kind of Wild Kingdom-esque, but microbes in your body. Like, it's really a fun read, and I think really an important read. I would, if you're almost like concerned about your health, but if you're trying to be a healthier person and understand your body, this doesn't really focus on that, but it's just super intelligent about how our bodies work, and there's more to us than we ever imagined. Like, I Contain Multitudes. This is really good. And then on a similar vein, The Tangled Tree, A Radical New History of Life by David Quammen. I had heard about this and knew it was one that I wanted to get to eventually. This is a great prequel to understanding the COVID vaccine, the mRNA, is it mRNA? The RNA vaccine, whatever. It's an excellent precursor to how, that technology was developed. It talks about CRISPR and gene sequencing, and it's just super fascinating. I will say that this one is a little bit higher level with the science talk, so just bear that in mind if that's not something that you enjoy. The other thing I wanted to mention was that I just super appreciated how David Quammen wrote women into the story. Like, he didn't leave them out, as is prone to happening in some of these nonfiction books I have found in the last 2 years. But yeah, there were several women in here that were vital to this technology being developed, and they may have been lesser known, less important in society, how society tends to view those things, but they were super critical, and I was just like ecstatic to see them included because they were so important to this development. And then the other one is also David Quammen. He's my man. Like, anytime I go to a used bookstore, if I see a David Quammen in the nonfiction nature section, I bring it home if I don't have it already. Spillover, Animal Infections and the Next Human Pandemic. Oh my goodness. So this is also excellent in understanding COVID. So this focuses on a wide variety of I forget the word, zoonomic, something to that effect, but diseases that start in the animal population and make the jump successfully into humans. And there's like so many, a wide variety, some that I had never heard of. So the big anchor chapter in this one is Ebola. Because when this was written, that was the one. You remember that when we were all worried about the Ebola getting to the United States? So yes, this was published, in 2012. And this one, unlike the Tangle Tree, is much more engaging and accessible for the lay audience. Like I Contain Multitudes, I would say. So highly recommend this one to anyone who's interested in this topic. And I fully expect David Quammen to come out with either a revised version of this, including COVID, or a standalone of COVID itself in the next few years. He's just extremely well versed on the topic. He's set himself up to be, like, I would say, the foremost writer on this topic. So if you see David Quammen come out with a COVID book, I would definitely get it, because he knows what he's talking about. He's already done the research for years, if not decades. So great book. And then I read my last Erik Larson. Oh, this is Deadwake, The Last Crossing of the Lusitania. Yeah, I've talked so much about these other books that I'm kind of losing my thinking abilities. And awkwardly, this is the last one that I read. Yeah, I think it's the last of these that I've read, at least. Mining Suspense. So this is nonfiction, okay? All of these have been nonfiction. And even though it's nonfiction and you kind of know how the story ends, the suspense is real. Erik Larson is so gifted in building suspense in his nonfiction and focusing on the details and finding the details, like the amount of research that he must do to find what to include in this. And his books, I mean, that's like his platform, is like everything in his books is indeed legitimate nonfiction. He doesn't put filler padding in them. And he focuses in this on all of these people and tells you their backstory and, interesting tidbits about the times that you're in, the technology and society. Oh, so good. So this one is World War II. It pairs really nicely with The Splendid and the Vile, which is his book that focuses on a year in, like, Churchill times in World War II. The Blitz, I think. But I really liked the pairing of the two, how, in The Splendid and the Vile, Churchill, like, really helped save democracy. And in here, this is an earlier, he looks back on Churchill's earlier times, and is this World War I? Yeah, World War I, sorry. And shows Churchill's flaws. So yeah, Erik Larson is a great writer. I think I've already talked about him recently, but Deadwake and The Splendid and the Vile, highly recommend those. And then I finally finished, I didn't finally finish. I'm currently working on my South African reads that I never finished from 2020. So I read Invictus recently, and oh my goodness, this was so good. So this focuses on Nelson Mandela's first few years in office and how instead of lording it over the white population, how horrible they had been, which would have been much deserved because they were indeed horrible as a whole, as a corporate mass, you know, I'm not talking individually, but as a nation. Instead, he looked for ways to heal the nation and to bring unity, and he used sports to do that. So this is, I believe it's cricket, sorry. A sport that the white African nationalists just really felt deep in their hearts. And he brought it back. You know, they had been ostracized on the world stage because of apartheid. And he, you know, spent time with the players and just kind of helped them change the way that they viewed Black Africans. Oh, and he just, like, this is so good. I love a good sports story. I do. I'm not gonna lie. This was a really, really good one. Really good. And then finally, we have a piece of fiction here, folks. This is my last one. And this is, I did finish my Cuban reads from 2021. And I am going to do a wrap up of those. I am. But this one I read and just absolutely charmed by it. Waiting for Snow in Havana, Confessions of a Cuban Boy. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This isn't fiction either. Yeah, there are no fiction reads on my favorites list this year. Okay, this is a memoir. It's a National Book Award winner. I remembered when I read the subtitle, because nonfiction books, that's one thing I love about them, is they have subtitles. Okay, I think I'm funny. This is written from a young boy's perspective. I think he was 8 when this started. Fairly well-off family. So when Castro took over and Batista was evicted, and how that rocked their world. Not in a good way, because they were well off, but it's just so charmingly written, mesmerizing. This is only one perspective. I read works from several perspectives, several, you know, economic levels, and I think that was really valuable for my reading. But this one as a story, like, I would totally read it again. I will read it again, because just the literature in here, like, it's very literary, okay? Very literary. I like that. I'm sorry, I do. Loved it. So I'll just end this with, you know, the opening paragraph so you can get a feel for it. And then we'll be off with our day. There's a little picture too. I think he's the young guy. Or is he the cowboy? I don't know. I read it quite some time ago. The world changed while I slept, and much to my surprise, no one had consulted me. That's how it would always be from that day forward. Of course, that's the way it had been all along. I just didn't know it until that morning. Surprise upon surprise, some good, some evil, most somewhere in between, and always without my consent. I was barely 8 years old, and I had spent hours dreaming of childish things as children do. My father, who vividly remembered his prior incarnation as King Louis XVI of France, probably dreamt of costume balls, mobs, and guillotines. My mother, who had no memory of having been Marie Antoinette, couldn't have shared in his dreams. Maybe she dreamt of hibiscus blossoms and fine silk. Maybe she dreamt of angels, as she always encouraged me to do. Sueña con los angelitos, she would say. Dream of little angels. The fact that they were little meant they were too cute to be fallen angels. Devils can never be cute. So good, so good. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. Let me like show these and get a cute thumbnail. Oh, these were so great. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye.